Hi, everyone. I'm Judy. Thank you so much for joining me again today at Bernwald TV. Habits are greater than goals. Small habits beat perfection. My goal for this channel is to provide guidance and education to children and families. So if that's your vibe and that's of interest to you, continue watching. So, we've been doing this series on habits, and we are going to continue that today. What are the three main categories of habits that we want to improve and increase in 2026? So, the first category is health, and health has also to do with mental focus, right? So, we're talking about how we care for our bodies and how we care for our mind. So, why does healthy habits matter? They create energy for everything else. Without them, motivation, focus, and mood all will decline, right? So, your health creates that energy that you need in order to work on your in order to be motivated, in order to focus, in order to help with your mood. So the first part of the health category is mental health, and as mentioned before, we discussed this in great detail last week. And just to give you a quick recap, mental health deals with mindfulness, taking deep breaths, showing gratitude, taking screen breaks, and being quiet before bedtime. And we also discussed last week sunlight, how important that is for our mental focus. Well, also a part of health is physical health, right? We know a lot of people are working on their exercise regimen for 2026. Some people want to get more fit. Some people is preparing for a major race or just to create new habits so that they can eventually increase their performance. So, with physical health, when you're creating a habit, it is recommended that you do daily movement. Even 5 to 10 minutes of daily movement creates the habit. So you want to create those small habits. You may want to stretch for those people who just want to get more physically fit. You may stretch, you may walk, you may do strength and balance exercises. So you want to incorporate small things. Remember, we're talking about small tasks, small habits, not perfection. Another part of your health focus is sleep health. We talked in detail the last time about sleep health, which as I will remind you, is about consistent sleeping time, right? Making sure that you go to bed on time, make sure you put the phone away an hour before bedtime. Also, part of sleepiness is sunlight because that adds to your circadian rhythm when you wake up in the morning and you get that morning sunlight. And of course, something that we did not mention the last time, which is your nutrition. And I'm not a nutritionist, but I know the facts, right? I've read, I've heard, I've learned. I won't have a conversation about what different foods are to eat, but I do know that fruits and vegetables in whatever quantity you feel that you've received nutritional advice from a nutritionist or from your doctor about, you should have colorful plates. So we want to teach our children, oh, you're making your plate, you want to add a certain portion of your plate to be fruits and vegetables. You want to talk to your child about adding that on their plate, right? You want to talk to your child about slowing down while they're eating. Also important in the health section is hydration. How much water they're drinking, children are drinking. Instead of sugary drinks, they really do need to be hydrated with a lot more water. So, in building these habits, remember, children, you teach them when they're born and when they get to toddler age, you teach them to set the timer for 2 minutes, for example, to brush their teeth, right? We talk to them about taking a shower. We talk to them about brushing their hair. These are habits that you do already, right? But what are those other habits that you can help to build in students and in children these positive daily habits, such as deep breathing, such as being showing gratitude, such as going outside? What are those habits that you can also sprinkle in there that are positive habits that can help mental focus? An easy thing, one of the things that I did was to buy my daughter a cool water bottle. It was a little pricey, right? But having that water bottle helped her to be able to consume more water and to be more hydrated. So now we have talked about health. Let's talk about the next category of habits that we want to develop, and that has to do with growth. Growth is a very broad term, right? But when we talk about growth, we talk about how I learn, how I improve, and how I adapt. So we're all growing inadvertently without even realizing it, or without even specifically partaking in it. We are growing. But there are certain growth factors that we want to implement and create habits on. So, why growth habits matter? They help keep your mind flexible at all ages, right? They keep you curious and they keep you confident. When you learn something new, you're just oftentimes excited. If you have young children, when they learn something new at school, they come home from school and they are so excited to tell you about what they've learned. Well, the same thing continues for adults. We want to share what we've learned with others. You see people doing that when they create YouTube channels. You see people doing that on any of the other platforms. They're sharing information that they've learned. Skills become quickly outdated, right? In our society quickly. It's moving so fast paced, and we want to put forth habits in place to continually learn and grow. So, for example, a habit that I've seen people mention is that they want to read a certain number of books for 2026. Well, let's create that habit. What does it look like? So, if you want to read several books in 2026, you're not just going to throw it out there. That's my goal and that's it. No, you're going to strategize and you're going to say, I will read one page a day. I'll read 5 pages per day. You want to bring it down closer into small bits and you want to create that habit that way. Also, when we talk about growth, we are including in the whole category of growth, we're including journaling, something we do every day on this channel. And by the way, we will be starting a new series on journaling, and we will be discussing self love in the month of February, since it will be Valentine's Day. I think it's important in February when we have a lot of people who are in relationships, maybe coming out of a relationship or going into new relationships, or maybe have no plans of being in a relationship, that you look at yourself, because you will always, always, always have a relationship with yourself. So we will be developing that with journal entries. And so if you like to join me for that, those will be on our shorts. You may journal first thing in the morning, you may journal after dinner, you may journal before you go to bed. However you decide to implement it, it does not have to be long. You can use journal entry prompts, such as ones that are on my page, or you can flow just flow, let the words come out. You could also do gratitude journal. That's something we discussed before. how gratitude journaling helps your mental focus. To teach your child to be inquisitive. When they're journals, sometimes questions come up and they're able to write them down and they're able to ask an adult later on about that question. Also in growth section is other skill development. Your child may be interested in dance. If they are a dancer, dancing falls under both physical exercise and skill development, right? So they are practicing that skill. How often will they incorporate the skill development of dancing in a day? Are they dancing, giving themselves, are they practicing for 5 to 10 minutes per day? Are they practicing for 15 minutes? Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Whatever the habit is that you want them or that they want to work on when it comes to their skill development, they put it into their routine and they make it a habit to do that every day at 7 p.m. This is what I'm doing for 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, it's 7 o'clock. It's time to practice my dance moves. Or I just got home from school. I'll do homework after dinner, but instead I will do my 10 or 15 minutes of skill development. That becomes a habit when it is tied in to something that you are already doing, we mentioned before, and it is on your schedule. It will be easier for it to become a habit. So they're practicing, for example, student. There are children who play a musical instrument. They want to increase that skill of playing that musical instrument. Okay, every Sunday and every Saturday, I'm practicing that musical instrument between this time and this time. After breakfast, both days, I go to the piano and I'm practicing because they know eventually it becomes a habit. You don't even need to remind them, it is already now a habit. So we've talked about health, we've talked about growth. Now the final category is relationships. Strong relationships are the greatest predictors of happiness and longevity. So, one of the major habits that falls under relationships is connection, doing daily check ins. And when you're talking to someone, using eye contact. So, we have to teach young people to use eye contact when having conversations with others, listening without multitasking. I remember when multitasking was this big thing that people are so excited that they're able to multitask. But now you want to have a habit that when you are connecting with someone that you are speaking to them and listening and not doing something else. Okay? That's how you build a connection. People can tell when you are distracted. Children can tell when you are distracted and you're not giving them the eye contact and you're multitasking. And you think they're not watching, but they're seeing everything you do and they are hearing everything you do. So it's important that we model how to properly connect and communicate with others. Teaching children the language of communicating their emotions, right, is very, very important. And finally, and maybe even the most important part when we talk about children is teaching children emotional regulation, pausing before reacting, apologizing when you are wrong. Too many times, children or students do not know what to do when they make a mistake. We have to teach children to apologize. We have to teach children to show respect. We have to model those behaviors and have the conversations with children about how to do that. A key in managing emotional regulation is tone and timing. I feel like tone and timing is just something that we will be discussing and we will have a whole conversation about because it is more important. Final note, the categories all work together. It's really important. Health gives you the energy. We started off talking about health and how this gives you the energy. Growth gives you direction, right? And relationships give you meaning. Remember, relationships are important. So, creating a habit that continually builds relationships will make us all happier. If part of the three, if any of the three are out of whack or not there, or you'll be unbalanced, you feel it. Thank you so much for joining Bernwalt TV, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.